PGA Tour back in action with its annual trip to the Motor City. Tony Finau is also back to defend his title against a field filled with 10 other winners this season, including last week's winner, Keegan Bradley, Max Homa, and Tom Kim. And here's a look at some of the notable tee times on Thursday. You have Bradley, Kim, and the fan favorite Collin Morikawa teeing off at 7:29 a.m. The favorites grouped with Rickie Fowler at 7:40. Later in the afternoon, we have Max Homa and then another fan favorite, Justin Thomas. Can he get back-to-back top 10 finishes? And Matsuyama going at 105. And here's a look at the odds to win the tournament. Tony Finau entering, or now 14-1 favorite to win, was 12-1 at one point. Rickie Fowler, Collin Morikawa right there next to him, and Justin Thomas at plus 2,000 odds. For more on the tournament field, let's bring in CBS Sports golf expert Mark Immelman. Mark, this is historically one of the easiest courses on tour, and the favorite Tony Finau predicting a winning score at 30 under. Now, whether that's the number on his final scorecard or not, how do you like his chances to repeat here?
Well, look, the golf course right now is really soft after a lot of rain, and that is normally the Bombers' advantage. But the thing with Finau, who's, as you point out, the betting favorite, I would say that his form is sort of spotty since the Masters. That victory in Mexico that came the week thereafter, he's been his only finish inside the top 20 since. So it's kind of there and thereabouts for Tony because the ball striking is decent, but he's really spending shots on the greens. But I guess the good news for Finau is coming back to a place where he's won, he's got some good vibes going on, and when you're putting poorly, getting back to greens where you've had some success, oftentimes that's sort of the recipe for finding a little groove. So as long as he keeps hitting the ball well, taking advantage of the power around the soft golf course, maybe he makes some putts. But I would say for Tony, he needs to find some form fast if he wants to defend his title.
All right, Mark, everything seems to be clicking for Rickie Fowler right now. He's top 10 in approach, top 15 in putting. Now he's got a weaker field here, so where do you expect him to place this week?
He's smelling like a rose right now, and he's playing with a lot of confidence ever since the contention at the US Open. And what sort of is indicative of that is the fact that last week at the Travelers, he's coming in there off the big finish. Everyone's traveled from West Coast to East Coast. Everyone's exhausted after major championship. And he shoots this lethargic round in the first round, but then backs that up with 65 and then 60. We had a look at 59 in round 3. So that speaks to just someone who's so confident in the game all around that even though you're sort of a bit tired, you can still outplay that. But now we've got another week in a row, another week where he's got to find a little form. So I think it's going to be a long stretch for Rickie. But what you see right there, everyone's talking about the golf swing and how it's going. But to me, he's swinging the putter with such freedom. He's rolling it great. That's keeping rounds alive. And he admitted to us that he goes, with where his game is right now, he doesn't feel like he has to force shots. So he's confident enough to go, well, I'm out of position. I don't have to try to make something happen. So as a result, the bogey avoidance is improving. He's giving himself more looks at birdie and playing the right shot. So as a result, he's playing with a lot of confidence. And being an ambassador for Rocket Mortgage, back to Detroit where he's played a bunch, I feel like he will continue some of the form.
All right, we've been waiting on a top 10 finish from Justin Thomas since March. Finally got it last week when he tied for 9th at the Travelers Championship, and he could have finished higher if it weren't for that low-scoring opening round. What do you expect from JT this week?
Well, typically golfers are always like one good swing away from success, and Justin Thomas is always that way inclined because he's such a prolific iron striker. And last week, you can look at the top 10 and go, oh, that's awesome. You can look at the rounds of 62 that he shot, followed that up with 67 over the weekend. You can look at that as awesome too. But to me, the fact that he's striking the irons well again, last week he led the field in proximity from the fairway. He led the field in par 3 scoring. That speaks to his calling card coming back. And then you add to that some sense of urgency because look, he was outside the top 70. Now he's slightly inside of the top 70, and 70, of course, qualifier for the FedEx Cup Playoffs. So there's that chip on his shoulder, and I feel like he does his best when he's playing like that. So with the iron game going well, with that urgency he has, he finds a way to make some putts, and that's always the key. Maybe he can continue this form.
And Mark, we need to let you take a victory lap here. I guess we can't get up and run around, so I'll just give you a little round of applause at the desk here. Because you picked Keegan Bradley as your long shot winner last week for the Travelers. He not only won, he set a tournament record at 23 under. How do you think he follows that up at the Rocket Mortgage this week?
He's got to be flying as high as a kite right now, confidence-wise. And to picking that Keegan win, look, I hope a bunch of folks listened to me and made some money out of that. I was the same guy last week who said that JT was going to miss the cut, and he finished inside the top 10. So I guess you win some and you lose some. But for winning some, that win of Keegan's, I feel like it's just unlocked. It's lifted the handbrake, if you will, because the whole season he struck the ball great. He's been there and he's been thereabouts. But sometimes winning tournaments takes just a little something. Maybe it was the crowds last week, maybe it was the course. But you can rest assured that he's coming in here on a high. And the way he strikes it, as long as what he is, I look for Keegan now to make a real push towards the playoffs.
Hey, don't apologize for the JT pick. We're playing the long game here, Mark, so I think the plus odds from the Bradley win, that's going to hold us over for a while. But we've talked about the soft course playing conditions, the different field here. So who is your pick to win?
Well, how does the song by Kiss go? You got to lose your mind in Detroit Rock City, right? I'm not losing my mind with Tom Kim. I heard the coach, Jonathan Coachman, picked him too. Last year around this time, Tom started to play really well. He's a prolific iron striker. He's second on tour in proximity with the irons. That's his game. And you could see the form sort of bubbling. And then he played beautifully the last 3 rounds at the US Open. Followed that up with a solid outing at the Travelers. He's coming to a place where he shot 63 in the final round last year to have a 7th place finish. And he parlayed that finish to a trip to a Donald Ross venue in Sedgefield for the Wyndham Championship, which I was on the call. It was the most incredible ball striking display I've seen in the final round for 61 to win. And listen, Detroit Golf Club is a Donald Ross course as well. It welcomes great iron play. That's his calling card. He putts great. I feel like Tom Kim gets his 2nd win on tour this week.
All right, love it. Thanks so much, Mark, for joining us and bringing that expertise with you. And for more tournament previews and picks, check out the First Cut podcast, our entire crew breaking down the biggest storylines in the world of golf every week with some PGA Tour DFS, betting picks, all the information you need to know to win your one-and-done pools. You can download and listen wherever you get your pods.